Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar news update video. In this video, the main news I'm going to be talking about is the reveal, finally, of Aang and Korra for Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl, the upcoming game. And I'm going to start off here with just a sort of recap of news we already know about, but just we're getting closer to New York Comic Con actually happening. So let's sort of do our sort of final thoughts heading into the event with the information that we have so far. So the only Avatar thing apart from sort of signings with the guests here is the main Avatar panel. Avatar Braving the Elements Live New York Comic Con edition on Saturday, October 9th from 2:15 to 3:15 New York time. And the description is pretty general. Just basically what the podcast is and saying that they'll have special guests here. They say it's a one-of-a-kind panel. It'll explore every element of the Avatarverse, including the origins of the story and how the Avatar was brought to life. I really question how they're going to do that when it's just Janet, Dante, D. Bradley Baker and Johnny Young Bosch for some reason, who I don't believe plays any character in Avatar or Korra. D. Bradley Baker at least voices like the animals and stuff like that, as well as voicing Tarlok in Korra, so it makes sense for him to be there. Obviously Bleach hype for Johnny Young Bosch, of course, Ichigo, but Bleach is an Avatar. So what's going on with this panel? What is it? Should we be excited at all for this? And the impression that I get going into this is that this is basically the panel that we have had for the last couple of years. It's that Dark Horse, Abrams Books, publishing panel, exploring the elements of the Avatar universe, whatever they called it in the past. They had the same title for like the panels for the last couple of years. It feels like this is that, just with the Braving the Elements sort of paint over it. It's just, we now have Janet Varney and Dante Basco installed as just general hosts for events like this, and you have whatever guests you can get. This year, it's D. Bradley Baker and Johnny Young Bosch. So no Mike and Brian, no comic creative teams or anything like that, which to me immediately sort of cuts off any potential for them to really have news there. Unless Janet and Dante are going to directly, state some news or something like that. That's not what I think this is, though. And I think it hasn't been for quite a while, especially with the way that this panel ends up actually working, where I don't believe this will be available to just view online for free, just because of how the event is actually working, where obviously if you go in person it is what it is, but digital tickets. So if you want to access live video panels streamed during the event, you have to pay 20 for the digital ticket. And I can tell you for sure, I am not paying €20 to watch this, $20 or whatever, to watch a panel that will just be like a bunch of voice actors, talking in general about Avatar, where there's no news or anything like that. This is a panel that feels like it is kind of there for the most part for the people who are going to attend in person, because it's been a while since one of these has happened. It's the first time for the podcast to have a panel like this, but that's all it feels like. The lack of, I think, the right people here to present news makes that abundantly clear, along with the fact that Avatar is really hyped at the moment, and the only guest you could get is D. Bradley Baker for Avatar, and you have to back him up with an unaffiliated voice actor. I don't get that. Like, is there no one else you could have got? No other VA that you could have got for this event? That's what feels, I think, the most kind of crazy to me in terms of just, I'm not particularly excited going into this, because they say this is what it's going to be, but I can't see it really being that way at all. Because if it is a podcast, I assume it's going to have the same general podcast rules, where they're going to be talking about spoilers for anything that's beyond where they are at in their rewatch, which is still not even halfway through book one. And it's been going for quite a while now, just because they take so many breaks with interviews. So I think this is really just there for the fans and the audience, unfortunately, and I don't have much of a desire to put the money in to watch it online. I'll just see what happens if anything comes out of it. But because it's behind that paywall, that's what to me almost confirms there is no news. Because if there was going to be news, they'd make it public so everyone could see. At least that's my impression of it. So, will there be any news over the course of Comic-Con outside of this panel? Potentially. Like, there's always the licensors, the merchandise companies that are going to make announcements because it's a Comic-Con, it's a big Comic-Con. So we might see, some Diamond Select announcements. We might see some McFarlane announcements, some Funko Pop announcements, that sort of thing. But the big thing that we're waiting for is, of course, the fact that, like, what was it, last week on the live stream, the live reading for Suki Alone, they said, comic announcements coming very, very soon. It feels like it would be a really weird thing if they completely skipped on the New York Comic Con hype window to skip doing news. Now, obviously, I don't think it'll be at the panel. I think they'll just use the general hype of New York Comic Con to release a news article of some sort, whether that be from like an IGN, a Comic Book Resources, and announce something that way. I think for me, the thing that I want the most is probably the Korra comic, just because I think it's the most needed. But realistically, they need to announce a Korra comic, a novel, and a Avatar comic. But I think at this stage, any of those announcements is something that we just absolutely need. So if I had any prediction, it would just be that the big announcement, I think, will just be a article that maybe happens at some point in the lead up to the event or during the event, maybe even just afterwards. But the panel itself, unfortunately, I don't think is going to be anything of note. But again, in the comments, let me know if you think there's going to be more to this panel than meets the eye. I just think this is completely like a hype thing for people who are going to attend in person, and it's not going to mean much for anyone outside. But the big news is, of course, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. So we have finally got the official reveal of the Avatar and Korra characters. So it is, of course, Aang and Korra, finally announced, even though we've known that they were going to be in the game for quite a while. I think leaks have come out to the point where I think we even now know that there is a third Avatar character, and I think it's Toph from what I saw. But again, I don't know if those leaks were confirmed or if it was just someone creating something. But, they have plans to do more characters, like a DLC, and I think there is other characters still to be revealed. But in general, they kept Avatar until last. They announced all the other characters first, and Aang and Korra were pretty much like the last ones to do as a group, to create hype. And they knew that this was the thing to do because, in a fighting game, the martial arts characters are obviously going to be the ones, and with the Avatar and Korra hype recently, it makes complete sense. So, they basically just announced them. They put out videos and stuff like that going over their movesets. Here's Korra and kind of her moveset, as you can see. So it's a Smash Bros style moveset where you have sort of standard attacks that are more sort of punch kicks. Then you have special moves, which are, more representative of the character, the world that the character is from. And you can see here, Avatar Korra, they go more for the fact that she is an avatar and have her do multi-elements. Whereas with Aang, they more go for, he's the airbender character, and then they have like one move where he shows that he's the avatar. So I thought that was an interesting way to distinguish between the characters, rather than having them both have multi-element kind of move sets. I think that probably works for the best. I'll just spend a little bit of time here going through, taking a quick look through the video. Just let's see some of it in action with the audio off. So you can see here, they just run through the different move sets here with Aang versus Patrick here, just to show off what Aang can do. And you can see that Aang is kind of really agile, lots of flips and stuff like that. If we move it along a bit, you can see more of the kind of bigger moves and so on. You could also see the Air Temple stage here is quite nice. And it's that Smash style game. You build up the percentage damage on the enemy. That means they take more knockback damage, and you have to blow them off the stage. Pretty cool. From what I've seen, people who are more into this style of thing, the technical aspects, seem to note that this game is actually doing a lot of things right on that front. And this is probably the big discussion with this game, is that what you'd expect with they're doing a Nickelodeon licensed Smash Bros game, basically. What you'd expect is that they'll get the character stuff right, like they'll have the licensing stuff correct, but the game probably won't be that great. What actually seems to have happened is like the reverse, where they've got a developer who's actually managed to do a Smash style game really, really well. But unfortunately, a huge aspect of the presentation of the characters is very weak in this game, and that is the audio sort of presentation of the characters. From what I can tell, there is no voice acting whatsoever in this game for the characters. There is a narrator and stuff like that for the matches, but none of the characters have any of their sort of signature sound effects or anything. And I'll play a bit of the audio here in a second, and you'll see that in the middle of gameplay, the audio is surprisingly like silent. There's not a lot going on. All there really is hit noises, and that's it. There's no sort of like grunts or anything like that. They're individual to each character. You can taunt, which usually you would in Smash Bros. I think bring up like a voice clip. None of that. And it just feels like, wow, they've really cheaped out on this and not having the VA in there. And look, I think the developers come out and said some stuff where like they put all the budget into technically making the gameplay good, and not on, you know, expensive, you know, making sure the voice actors are in there. But I think that's a huge part of it. Like the whole point of this game, the hype behind it, is that it's Smash but with Nickelodeon characters, yet a huge part of what makes the Nickelodeon characters interesting, their personalities, isn't coming across so well. So that's really unfortunate. So you can see there's Aang's taunt. So you can see there, like, the only sound effect for Aang's taunt was just a little, like, ding type thing. He's not saying anything, and if we skip to the end where they do like a match, this is just gameplay. The guy isn't commentating over this. This is just pure gameplay. This is what you'd be hearing if you were playing.
Perfect.
So you can see here, the only sounds going on are music in the background, and it's not even Avatar music really. And then the hit like sound effects. That's it. Like nothing that makes it feel like Aang, like if you're just listening to it, that you could tell who was actually fighting at all. And it's Patrick and Aang. Where's the voice acting for Aang? Where's Patrick making noises that is that signature, you know, voice that pretty much everyone knows? And especially for someone like, say, a SpongeBob, like the fact that he doesn't have like his laugh in there or any of that stuff. It's a huge part of the character in a sort of character brawling game that just isn't there. To me, it's a huge negative against this game that it's so lacking on that presentation front. I sort of respect the decision to go for the gameplay over the licensing stuff, I guess, to make the voice acting a thing. And I think they're aware that this is the biggest complaint against the game, in that, and if you look in the comments on a lot of, especially the early stuff when gameplay was first revealed, all the comments are just like, where's the voice acting? Where's the audio for the characters? Why does the game feel so like barren when it comes to like audio? So there's that. We'll just quickly go through some Korra here just to see her in action. You see her stage is harmonic convergence, which is quite interesting. You know, the Tree of Time area in the spirit world, that's quite nice, and you can see Rava and Vatu in the background, and her style is pretty cool. But again, we go to Korra's gameplay at the end here. Just general music, and again, the only audio voice acting is the narrator for the matches. I don't know. I was considering getting this game because I sort of like Smash style games, and with the avatar element and it being sort of, you know, the fighting characters get to fight, there's a kind of cool factor there, but it just feels like it's not fully there. Only like half of the characters are actually in this, and for a game that is more or less full price, it doesn't feel like it's fully fleshed out just yet. So even though I know it's probably one of those situations where they need the game to sell well to do the update to add in voice acting, I just can't bring myself to spend the money on this just for a little bit of avatar content. And I'll maybe take a look at this if the price goes down or it maybe gets the updates that it needs. But right now, I can't see myself getting this. And it feels much the same way as with the kart racer game that came out that also had Aang and Korra, where when it came down to it, it's just like, no, I don't want to spend the money on this game just to check out the avatar content in it, unless it's fully fleshed out content in this game. So I'll keep my eye out just because updates might make me want to go for it. But yeah, it's a weird situation. It's a weird situation because for the most part, I think Smash players seems to actually be impressed with the mechanics that this game has, like pretty impressed. But just presentation wise, it's lacking on the audio front. So in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are. New York Comic Con, do you think we'll get anything from the panel, or do you think all of our hope is pretty much on stuff like basically outside of the panel, just the New York Comic Con news window? And then with Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl, what are your thoughts on Aang and Korra joining the fight here in this game? Does the game interest you, or do you sort of agree with my take on it? Just what are your thoughts on All-Star Brawl now that we know some of the avatar stuff in it? But yeah, that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.